Sztanyo, Clanyo, what is going on? Happy Sunday evening. Welcome into Team Sztanyo Live. We've got a lot to cover this week. Man, we had a blast down at GABP, and a lot of you guys showed up and turned out. It was so awesome. Great having you down there. I'm going to show you a few clips of our fun Team Sztanyo event down at Great American Ballpark, where we had 600 people show up, or at least we had 600 tickets. But most of you all came. I haven't run the final numbers yet, but we had an incredible turnout. It was awesome. In this Team Sztanyo Live, we're going to do a real estate update on the market. We're going to look at the May stats, show you guys what is going on here in the local Cincinnati market. And then I found a really interesting article this week of the millionaires who are moving to Cincinnati when it comes to where they're choosing to live in Ohio. Cincinnati is the #1 destination. We're going to look into that and the details of it. And if we get into it, there's one other article I want to get into tonight around business ownership and entrepreneurship here in the Cincinnati area, and why that might not all look like tech. There was a really interesting op-ed out there this week that I want to talk about. So how are you guys doing tonight? Got to meet so many of you down there at the game. And of course, my man, there he is, Alex. Got to meet you in person down at the game. Was awesome to see you down there. It was great seeing you at the Banks as well. You're so welcome for the Reds ticket and the outing. Man, it was awesome having you there, meeting you in person. A lot of you guys I met for the first time, met some Growl Pals for the first time. A lot of fans of Paul Dehner Jr. and the Growler podcast network. Met some of you guys down there. Loved having you show up as well. It was just a fun time. I love going to the ballpark. Here's a little bit of what it looked like down there. I had 2 of my kids helping me set up. My other 3 were with my wife, but we were down there right outside of Moorline Logger House. We had the peanuts. We had the bubble gum. We had the hats. We had the merch. The one and only Carrie Reichwein and the whole team. The Team Sztanyo was down there helping getting people checked in, getting tickets passed out to everyone. There was happy hour down there. We had a professional photographer down there for family photos. I don't know what's going on with the hang on a sec. Why is this zoomed in? That's weird. Let me get back to this. We had so here's a photo of my lovely daughter and son. There's the whole team, the OG Team Sztanyo. Made it down there finally right before the game started. We had some some inclement weather down there at GABP, but man, was it good to be back in the ballpark. I love being down in the ballpark. I don't care, rain or shine. And it was actually, I don't mind rain at all as long as it's warm. And we were warm and we weren't cold. Cold rain, not so fun, but it was pouring down there. This was a chance, let's see. I think we had a chance to take a lead right here. And instead we grounded out, or maybe it was to tie the game at that point. But you could see the water that was on the field. I don't know if I've ever been to a game where the umpires let them play so much. Like it was pretty wild. There was a lot of rain. It probably rained for 45 minutes straight to an hour. Like a lot of water came down. There was lightning strikes going on, and they were like, "Hey fans, you should go to the concourse," but they were still playing the game. We're like, "Well, what do you want us to do? Do you want us to watch the game?" But where we were, I loved it. I love these seats. Right down the right field line or first base line. Great view of the scoreboard, great view of the river and Northern Kentucky. You can see some of the, the Great American Building and downtown. And then we were completely covered from the elements. So we all just hung out here, or a lot of us did anyway, hanging out here, watching the game in the rain for a long time, having a good time. The umps let it go long enough where, we could still, the Reds had a chance to come back. They brought out the tarp finally, and this poor gal, she got caught. She got caught in the tarp. This guy was loving it, having a good time, enjoying the fact that someone got trapped under the tarp, and she finally made her way. Let's see here in just a minute. I think I zoom in here, and she makes it out. But we had a blast. The Neltner crew was in the house. All the kids were having a good time. You could see the hats were out there. We were loving it. It was just fun. And then here's my son. He's 9 years old, right? And he's like, rain delay, fireworks are going off. I don't care. I'm just gonna run. I'm just going to run through the ballpark, and I'm gonna run through section after section after section in the rain because why not? I'm 9 years old and this is amazing. And some people didn't show up. It's a rain out, whatever, and that's it's a little bummer we didn't get to see the end of the game. But sometimes rain delays are the most fun when it comes to memories. And there's my son just running around, having a good time, playing in the rain. Here's my other son. Here's my 5-year-old, and he fire reflecting off of him. Looking at the bill of his hat, just dripping wet because rain's coming down on him. He doesn't care. He's got all you can eat popcorn, and he's just stuffing his face with popcorn, enjoying some fireworks. This I'm so glad I got this little clip right here. He was just hanging out here for about 10-20 minutes, just watching the fireworks, having a good time. He's wet, but he doesn't care, and it made kind of everything fun. There's my 12-year-old son. There's my daughter. Fireworks going off, having fun down at the ballpark, and it was raining on the way out. But again, a memorable night. Sztanyo Clanyo had a great time down there. Love this event every year. I will say to the Reds, went back there Saturday I took my mom down because she wasn't able to make it on Sunday evening or on Friday evening. And so I took my mom down, and usually what happens, if you got a tie game, if you got a ticket stub from the previous game, you can go down and watch those remaining innings. That's what I figured was going to happen. Took my mom down, took my 12-year-old son down. We show up at the gate, and they said, no luck. You've got to buy a new ticket for Saturday's game. And we were like, what? We can't stay for the full game. We only came down to watch these 3 innings. And they said, no, it's no good. Your ticket's no good because we don't have time to clear out the stadium. I've got a little beef with that. Okay. I sent off, I'm not going to lie, I sent off an email to the Reds group sales tickets of like, hey, what the heck? We paid for 600 tickets and we got 6 innings of baseball. I would like my other 3. You gave my other 3 innings to the people for Saturday. What's up with that? I want my 3 innings back. So didn't love that. I didn't love that, but everything else I loved absolutely about it. What's up, Houseman Willie William? It was a ton of fun down there, regardless of missing the final 3 innings. We had a blast. We had an absolute blast. It's awesome that they still did the fireworks at the end of the night. The Reds won on Saturday 2 times. I know that was awesome. So yeah, we kind of knew the game was over when, after the 6th inning, they put on the tarp and then the fireworks go out. And here's my friend, Heather, trying to pull this up. Oh, my screen's freezing here. Hang on. Okay, let's see if I can make this bigger here. She made a reel, and we were just having a blast. But what I loved about this, towards the end of this, we have peanuts for the kids. Make sure we curve off that hangriness. And her kids were giving everyone high fives on the way out, which was super awesome. Love seeing these smiles on the kids. What's better than that? There's my oldest. Hey. That was when CES tied it up in the 6th with the homer. I knew that was huge. I knew they were gonna call it any second. It was coming down. It was coming down hard. The rain was coming down. I was happy. Fireworks going off. And then what I wanna show here is them going out. They're playing in the puddles. I love it. Right here. I mean, why not? You're soaking wet, you might as well go splash through the puddle, right? These are the memories. And then they're giving high fives to everyone coming out of the stadium. Love it. Absolutely love it. So that was a blast. Huge success, Team Stanyo event. So glad all of you guys who made it down. That was so fun. Did we win? It was 2-2 when I was coming in. Did we get the sweep? I love it. Thanks for that update, Alex. So huge weekend here for the Reds, for Team Sztanyo. We had an absolute blast. All right, what do you guys want to get into here? Do you want to do the Millionaires article? Let's hit that first, and then we'll get into our market update and show you guys what is going on. Let me pull this up here. So rarefied air, homeowners and renters earning millions are flocking to Cincinnati. So kind of excuse all the ads here, but let's get into this article. I thought this was interesting. The Cincinnati metro area topped Cleveland and Columbus as the #1 destination in Ohio for homebuyers and renters earning at least $1 million a year, according to a new report from RentCafe. The Cincinnati area saw the number of homeowners with seven-figure incomes jump from 67 in 2019 to 507 in 2023, based on U.S. Census figures reported by the apartment search and housing data analytics firm. The Cleveland and Columbus areas both trailed Cincinnati with about 360 such homeowners in 2023, according to the report. And that's really why I wanted to share this article was, Cincinnati out in front of Cleveland and, whoops, did I lose it? And Columbus there. So 360 in those areas. And just anytime I can show off that Cincinnati is beating Cleveland, Cincinnati, I'm gonna. And part of what that means is we've got more millionaires here, apparently, than they do. There are far more homeowners worth at least $1 million in Ohio than the RentCafe report reflects. But many of those homeowners are business owners, investors, and those with inherited wealth. So this RentCafe report is about those earning $1 million or more. The number of high-income homeowners raking in more than $1 million a year in Cincinnati is nowhere near the number of New York or Los Angeles. So New York is 26,000 a year, or 26,700 households, I should say. Los Angeles, that's actually surprising to me how much lower LA is than New York. So LA is 10,694. Two affluent metros known for high-wage jobs in the tech and financial industries. But the jump in number of homeowners earning $1 million or more in the Queen City represents a nearly seven-fold increase over the 5-year period from 2019 to 2023. Hakeem Olajuwon, what's up, is saying that Cleveland is understandable because it's cheaper overall. Yeah, but I think this is what this is talking about is, the amount of revenue for renters and owners. Maybe you're saying the wages are less there potentially. I think what I wanted to kind of point out here, what is somewhat interesting to me is, man, these ads. I tell you what, I had to turn off the ad blocker. Let me see if I can make this a little bigger here. The rate of increase of growth here. So from, what was it? Let me go back here. It was 67 in 2019 up to 507 in 2023. Obviously, what you have in the middle there is COVID, right? And so, and you have inflation and all that. So you've probably got more people earning more simply because of inflation. But you also have COVID. But I think what you're seeing is a lot of these millionaires across the country have been moving some of these more traditional millionaire cities, whether it's New York, whether it's LA, different places in California, and they're moving. They've kind of been scattered all around the country. What we're seeing here in Ohio is Cincinnati is the #1 location, has the #1 jump compared to Columbus and Cleveland. But I want to move over to this map, if you guys can kind of see this, and you can see where are the fastest growing hotspots for millionaire renters and owners. You're also seeing more people rent, more millionaires rent than previously, than just becoming homeowners. That's part of kind of the millennial lifestyle. You're seeing more and more of these millionaires. Let me see if I can get up to this chart. Or I guess it's down a little bit lower here. So which are the main generations among millionaire renters and owners? So here's your share of millionaire renters. It is 46% Gen Z. Man, so many Gen Z are deciding to rent. Let's just go from generation to generation here, I guess. Millennials. Oh, I've got that wrong. I'm sorry. Gen Z is this sliver, 1%. So not a ton of millionaires, and that makes more sense. But of millennials, you got 46% is the share of millionaire renters. Gen X 34% and boomers 17%. But in terms of home ownership, that same percentage of millionaires, you got 16% of millennials who are owning. You've got 43% compared to 34% of Gen X who are owning, and 17 compared to 36% of boomers who are owning. Hey, that's all right, Hakeem. I've got a long way to go to be a millionaire here. All good. Hey, we can all have goals, right? We can all have goals. But I just think this is interesting here. Going back to this, where are they kind of moving? Where are the owners moving? So the small, what are these? 1, 2, 3 hexagons, I guess, right? Is that right? Hexes 6. Man, my geometry is bad. Is a hexagon 6? Is that right? That's right. Yeah. Octagon's 8, pentagon 5, hexagon 6. I think that's right. So looking at these hexagons, 2, 10, and then the large ones are 20 times what they were. So you can see a ton of this in terms of owners down moving to Florida. So Orlando is 19 times the growth rate what it was. Deltona 13.8, Palm Bay 14 times, and down in the Tampa area 8 times the growth rate, and even Pensacola 17 times. Now, if you're going to the Midwest here, what's popping up is Louisville. This was really interesting too, because Louisville's about an hour and a half from Cincinnati, depending on where you're starting from. And you see 10.5 times growth in terms of there was 11 millionaire households in 2019 to 127 millionaire households in 2023. Again, that number in Cincy was like 60s up to 509. So a lot more in the Cincinnati area, but you're seeing the hexagons here in terms of the rate of growth. So where else in the country are you seeing that much growth? Omaha has a lot. Grand Rapids, Michigan, Salt Lake City, seeing a lot of growth. And you're seeing a lot of it, especially on the renter side in Texas. So 12 times the growth rate of renters in Texas, 12.2 in Dallas, and 25 times the renter millionaire growth rate in Houston, Texas. So a huge amount of renter growth going to Texas. That's very interesting. But you kind of see, in this Southeast area, Southeast and Midwest, a lot in Huntsville, Alabama, Chattanooga, Tennessee, Charleston, North Carolina. That's where a lot of people have been targeting in terms of warmer weather. So if I can take my millionaire job somewhere else, where do I want to go? Well, maybe I want to stay off the coast. Maybe I want to go down to Florida. Maybe I'm hitting up Texas. I'm hitting that warmer area, kind of in the Southeast is where you see a lot of that growth. And then I think the Salt Lake probably makes sense from what I've heard from a lot of people who have been moving to Cincinnati, either from California or from Salt Lake or places like Arizona or Texas, is a lot of Californians have migrated over the last 5 years. A lot of them went into Vegas and Utah and Arizona and Texas. And a lot of times there's kind of a spillover effect where if someone's getting priced out of those areas where all the millionaires have moved to, they're looking a lot more in these Midwest areas of Columbus and Cleveland and Indianapolis and Cincinnati, Louisville, Kentucky, Lexington, Kentucky, Indianapolis, areas like that. So we've seen kind of a lot of that migration over the past 5 years. But hey, just kind of wrap this idea up. I just wanted to rub it in again, Cincinnati beating out Columbus, beating out Cleveland. And I'm happy about that, as a Cincinnati real estate agent, I'm happy about that. So, also again, anytime I can rub it into Cleveland's face, I'm going to. I actually drove up past Cleveland this last week, and I'll show one other, going back into the reels here. We had the reason I didn't do a live last weekend is we've got up to Niagara Falls. And so we went past Cleveland on the way. We actually stopped in Columbus at COSI Museum. Actually, that was here. Let me go back here. That was a total blast. So I'm just sharing a little dad life here before we get into the market update. I was super impressed by this museum. Had never been before. Had this great shark exhibit. Had this bike, that this high wire bike that my kids got to go on, or at least 3 of them did, that were big enough, where you're on this one wire and it's, you're learning about fulcrums, Just such a cool museum. If you ever get a chance to go up here at COSI in Columbus, I highly recommend it. This was on the way for us up to Niagara Falls. Um, what's also incredible here, so kind of a pro tip, is that if you have a pass to the Cincinnati Museum Center, there's reciprocity with all these museums nationwide, as long as you live at least 90 miles away from these other museums by the crow. What is it? By the crow flies, or by how the crow flies, or that's the actual wording on the website. Is so it's a direct line. It's not like up the interstate. So if you're 90 miles out from Columbus COSI Museum, which we were, this was completely free for us to get in. We're members of the Cincinnati Museum, and we were able to go up to this museum on our way up to Niagara. So we made a day of it, and we ended up landing in Erie, Pennsylvania on our road trip. This gadget room was awesome. Just, typically when you take your kids on a road trip, there's, and we're no different, guys. Like, the kids are whining, the kids are complaining and all that. And it's like, oh my gosh, like, ugh. But, and a lot of times we end up my wife and I decide to drive at night because like, we just want them to be asleep. But this museum was remarkable for their time in it, because there's always something to learn, something to do, something to touch, just all kinds of fun things to play and do and watch and experience here. It was just a lot of fun. I can't say, and like we might go back to this. It was so much fun. They got to go in this little submarine. They had this aquatic center and this big, huge Poseidon statue here. So very, very cool museum. I would go back and do this again for sure. And it's only, about a 2-hour trip up the road to Columbus. So definitely we'll probably do that again. And then we made it up to Niagara, which I have always wanted to go to Niagara Falls, and it kind of lived up to the hype there. Whoops. Had a blast there. We went 2 days to Niagara, sandwiching the wedding in between. So I guess everything didn't get shared there. Maybe it's on Facebook or something, but had a blast there. Okay. So there's a little family life there. You guys are all watching in here. Alex saying I was able to visit a whole bunch of museums in Boston thanks to the CMC membership. Yeah. Any road trip I'm going on now, I'm going to be like, all right, let's check out the museum with the kids. So that was a little perk I didn't know about till recently. Thank you, ChatGPT, for that little known fact. And now I'm sharing it on to you guys. So if you have the museum pass here, use that at other places. It's fantastic. All right, let's get into, let me pull this off. Give me 1 second. We'll talk about what's going on in the real estate market. All right, let's do it. So here we go. I guess let me give a little overview of where we're at. What is today? June 8th, and what the market is doing. In some ways, I would say the market is being very predictable right now in terms of seasonality, in terms of what a normal year looks like in the Cincinnati and Northern Kentucky market. In some ways, it's very predictable. In other ways, I think it is pulling back a little bit. We'll get into this data here, but we're seeing days on market last a little bit longer. Sellers for the last few years, if you're used to throwing out your house on the market and it getting multiple offers and selling right away, that's certainly not happening with all the properties on the market right now. We're seeing days on market increase. Now it depends. It can go either way because we still kind of have short inventory, and we'll get into that. But we also have homes sitting on the market longer and longer. So let's get into this data, and I will show you guys exactly what I'm talking about. We're going to start here with what we usually start with, which is the median sales price. And what we are looking at here is, again, sales in Claremont, Butler, Warren, and Hamilton counties. Those are the counties in the Cincinnati area on the Ohio side that see that get the most sales, within the greater Cincinnati region. So pulling data from there, we're looking at residential, single family, and condominium sales only. So not looking at land, not looking at farms or anything like that. And what we have here is going back over 2 years, what is the median price sold? And I'm just going to make this a little larger for myself here. So where we at in terms of May is the median sale price was $321,000. Now, going back over the last 2 years, that is the highest median home price we have had in the Cincinnati area. So more so than last summer, more so than 2 summers ago. In fact, two Mays ago, we were at 299. So we're at an increase of 6%. Let's see here. Well, from start to finish, I guess I don't have that number. What is that? I just have, what I have is a 6% growth over the last year compared to the previous year. So if you're divvying this down into a 2-year period, you're seeing about 6% growth, 5.9% over the previous year. That's honestly what we've kind of seen about the last 2-3 years now in Cincinnati, is about 5 to 6% growth. We are not seeing a decline in home prices yet. We are not seeing enough inventory on the market here to see home prices go down. We're still seeing growth 5 to 6% year over year. And you see a fairly big jump, a sizable jump from May to April here. Now, if you're looking at this trend line, which we'll look here, why don't we just look at this price per square feet? Because it's kind of a similar trend. And when I say we're in a very normal seasonal market here, this is what I mean. You can kind of see these ups and downs here. Well, the ups and downs are the spring market and kind of the winter market. So the spring market heading into the summer, which is where we're at right now, is where you see the highest price per square foot. It's where you see the highest median sale price. And then you'll see that kind of peak around July and August and start to come down slightly, and it hits its low point around January and February in the winter. So if you go back to this median sales price, you see last year, May, June, July is where the median sales price peaked. And then it came down in August, September. You can kind of see it drifting down August, September, October, November, December, with January being the lowest. And really, those are kind of sales from December, or homes that were under contract, most of them in December, closing in January. And so if you want to shop, I say this over and over again, but I'm going to continue to say it. If you want to shop and get the lowest sales point of the year, you're shopping in December. Now, the downside to that is there's the least amount of inventory, and it's cold, and it's Christmas time, and it's hard to shop at that point. Alex, yes, real quick. I did go to the Canadian side. In fact, I actually made a mistake. And my plan for the day, because we were, like I said, we were in Erie, Pennsylvania. So it was about a 2-hour drive up past Buffalo into Niagara. My plan was to go, and I had not been up there before, was to go to the American side and go to the state park there, and then cross over later in the day. Because I thought maybe the crossing over into Canada would take some time. And honestly, it didn't go as planned, but it worked out better because I took the wrong exit as I was following Google Maps, like going through Buffalo, and found myself heading straight to Canada. So we skipped the American side completely. And once we got parked and into the Canadian side, I was like, oh, I'm glad we skipped it, because the views from the Canada side were remarkable. And we were on the Canada side. We were kind of up by the tourist center. Then we walked down the pathway, and then we rode the boat, which was absolutely phenomenal. We got soaking wet. It wasn't the Maid of the Mist. It was like Niagara City tour guides or something like that. It was not branded very well. The Americans do better with their branding, I will say that, on their boat tours. But the kids loved it. We got right up into the Horseshoe Falls, pouring down water. We were all soaked. My 5-year-old, we had a harness on him so he wouldn't go like climbing over the rail or anything. But we were just like, it was to be in that power and all that water. It was like a ton of fun. So yes, we were able to do the Canadian side and the whole thing. That was a blast. All right. So getting back into this, into the market here and looking at this. So you can see the trend line here, and where we're at right now, going from March, April, May, is we'll probably go up a little bit again in June and July, just like we did the last year, just like we did in 23 as well. You can say May, June, and July. In 23, July, it started actually coming down in July. Last year, it stayed, the median price point stayed highest in July, but it's right about in between those two time periods where you're looking at hitting the peak of the median sale price, and then it'll start kind of coming down. Now, I say, I say this where it's the highest price point. Yes, but you also have the most inventory out right now. In fact, let's take a look at that. And so this is why, the price point goes up, because you also have the most amount of houses on the market. And so if you want the best chance of finding a home or a floor plan that you love, now's the time to shop, because the most amount of inventory is also on the market. So if you look here on this chart, it follows a very similar curve to the median price. The red bars here on this chart are the amount of homes that are for sale. And what's really interesting to me on this, beyond the price point, is we're seeing more homes on the market than we saw last year. So the amount of homes for sale going back 1 year in this chart, and if you were to split this chart into two here, is 27% more than the previous year. So if you were kind of add all this section up right here and compare it year over year to this section, there are 27% more houses for sale this year. So this is kind of great. Like, from a buyer standpoint, you're finally getting a little bit of inventory to choose from. What's kind of weird about the market, though, I would say, is like, even though there's more inventory this year, we're still seeing prices go up. Now, I think they're it's just weird. Like, a lot of people predicted that prices would go down here. A lot of people are maybe waiting out on the sidelines, saying, I'm just waiting for prices to go down. And I just find this market, this is kind of why I went back to that, hey, millionaires are moving here kind of thing. And they're not moving here at like alarming rates. If you go back to that map I shared, 500 households compared to 26,000 in New York and 12,000 in LA. There are other cities that have way more millionaires, but they are trickling in here. I continue to make this joke that I think Cincinnati is like the most average city in the United States. So it's not like an overwhelming amount. I get a lot of comments on the YouTube channel a lot where people are like, don't tell people how good Cincinnati is. We don't want people to move here. I'm like, yes, I do. Like, I want people to move here. Like, I want growth. You don't want to live in a city where there's not growth. Then everything starts going downhill and your economy goes bad, your values go bad. But we're like, what Cincinnati has is just steady growth. It's not overwhelming growth. And so, translating that into the housing market is that we're still seeing prices steadily go up. We're not seeing prices go down like we are in other markets. We're not seeing inventory stack. Like, if you go out there and look at and just do a few headlines of Florida real estate right now, you saw on that map, there was tons of people moving there. And because of that, you had all the, builders building tons of inventory. And now you've got this interesting other dilemma where insurance rates are skyrocketing in Florida and in Texas. And so now people who moved there in COVID are starting to move out, but they're finding that there's all this inventory on the market. So you're seeing prices come down in markets like that. We're not experiencing that here in Cincinnati. We're just not. We don't have that much. We have more than we did, but we were at historic lows of inventory. And so we're just now kind of getting to the point. And let me show you what this means. So you can see here, what's interesting about this is the amount of inventory has gone up 27%, but the amount of sold homes year over year is actually down 4.3%. So what's up with that? Why is that happening? Well, to me, that is, that's a lot of a local, it's a local affordability issue, because rates haven't gone down, prices have gone up. If prices did come down, I could see more people jumping in. If interest rates come down, I could see more people jumping in. And it's not a whole lot less, only 4% less than the previous year. But when you've got 27% more inventory, but you're actually down in the amount of units sold, well, what does that mean? That leads us to our next chart, right? We're just kind of doing the math here. And the next chart means that the month's supply of inventory keeps creeping up. And that's what this chart is how much inventory is out there. Okay, so I always kind of walk through the same things here so you can kind of get a feel of what's happening here in the market. So if you're looking to buy or sell, you can make an informed decision, because every market is different. Every neighborhood is different, really. But just looking at this broad scope of Cincinnati market, what you're seeing in this chart is that the month's supply of inventory is up. It's up 27% over the year to year. Well, and that makes sense, right? 27% more units for sale. Well, The month supply of inventory is up 27%. So it's kind of selling at about the same rate. And that's what this chart is right here. This is the absorption rate. And we'll kind of get into it. It's actually down a little bit. The absorption rate is actually down, meaning how much of that inventory is being sold. But going back to this, the other thing I wanted to point out here on this chart is not only is the month supply of inventory. Now, when I say it's up, it's not crazy, right? You look at this, and what I'm talking about is a little bit over 1 month's supply of inventory. And just as a reminder, see if I can block this here real quick. Okay. So just as a reminder, a normal real estate market is 6 months of supply, meaning if no new homes hit the market, everything will be sold within 6 months. So a normal market where it's not a seller's market, it's not a buyer's market, and a normal market is 6 months of inventory. We're down at 1 month of inventory right now. We've been there for years around this time of year. The highest we've peaked, last year we peaked around 2.3 months of inventory in December. So the same thing. This is a very seasonal chart. Now this chart and the median price point chart and the price per square foot, everything got out of whack during COVID. Everything was out of whack. It was not normal seasonality. What we're seeing here in this kind of like roller coaster of a chart is normal seasonality of what we experience here in Cincinnati, which is we're in the buying season right now, where more homes come on the market, but also more people are buying them. So even though there's more homes on the market, going back to this chart right here, you also see this, you see the green bars tick up as well, right? The green bars are how many units were actually sold. And so they kind of track right along with the amount of houses on the market, if you guys can see that. And so there's a little bit, if you look at this red curve, it goes up a little bit higher than the green curve. And that's where you're seeing a little bit more inventory this year than last year. But we're in the buying market right now, so there's not a lot of inventory out there. That's why if you are looking to buy right now, it's kind of a weird market. That's why I'm saying that. It's like, yeah, there's more houses out there than before. They're also getting snatched up kind of quick. They tend to either sell fast or they're sitting out there for a few weeks, maybe 3 weeks, maybe 4, maybe more. And there's not a whole lot like in the middle. That's kind of the interesting market. The other thing I want to point out on this chart is this. I guess before I get to that, I'll answer this. Hakeem's asking, will we ever get back to 6 month inventory? Yeah, I think we will. I think we will, because, there's supply and demand. The market, builders continue to see this and they see opportunity. And so they're figuring out, okay, we can build more. And, the last time we had an oversupply of market here in Cincinnati, I mean, it was the Great Recession. And then that was kind of across the country. You had from 08 kind of to 2012 is where you saw a lot of market. And that'd be interesting for me to do that video and kind of go back and look at that, how many months of supply we had. I think we'll get there, but I think what you find in Cincinnati is that, and I say this all the time, we don't usually overcorrect. We kind of trail what's going on in the rest of the country. So we're still kind of like, home prices are still going up, and in some areas of the country, they're going down. And if that could happen here, but if they do, it's not going to be like this, right? It's going to be like we're a steady up and we're kind of a steady down. I always say like we're a river city, like we kind of just like go with the river. I don't know if that totally makes sense, but it's like we're not usually a huge boom town. We're not usually a huge bust town, unless there's the Great Recession, right? Like a catastrophic economic, once in a lifetime kind of economic event that happens. But even then, we didn't crash as hard as other cities, nowhere near it, because we kind of just cruise in the middle. It's kind of what we do here in Cincy. So the other thing good question. Thanks for asking that. The other thing I wanted to point out here is the days on market, right? So this is average days on market. Average is a little bit different than the median here, but average hit its peak of 40. And where it's at right now is around 20. The previous month it was, the reason it's coming down is because more buyers are hitting the market. But whereas it's 20 right now in May of 25, look where it was in May of 24. it was down closer to 15 days on market. And the year before in May, it was probably closer to, I don't know, 14 days on market. It's pretty close to May of 15. Similarly, April of this year was around 21, where it was around 16 or 17 last year. And so not a huge adjustment, but I just wanted to point that out, right? That if you've been shopping for homes, if you've been shopping for homes and you've noticed that I think some houses are staying on the market a little bit longer than usual, you'd be right. Like, you're making a correct observation. They are not going, let me say this, not all of the houses on the market are selling as quickly as they have been the past few years. And so we're seeing that creep up in days on market, which gives you, as a buyer, it gives you a little bit more leverage, right? Because sellers still feel like, I should have my home sold right away. And if they don't, they start to get more motivated. I just came from showing some houses up in Beckett Ridge, up in the Westchester area. And some of those homes have been out there now. One was 17 days. The other one was, I think, 29 days. And I'm getting messages now from the listing agent shortly after the listing. Are you guys interested? Sellers are highly motivated. And that's the kind of things that shift in a market where buyers start to get a little bit more power, where you didn't have that in the previous years, where agents are like, man, how do we get this thing sold? We got to do another open house, right? We got to get people in the door of this thing. We might need to do some kind of incentive. We might need to do a price reduction here to get more people in the door. We might need to tell people, hey, we're motivated. We might need to do some kind of housing allowance or like flooring allowance or something like that. So you're seeing a little bit, if you're a buyer, you're seeing a little bit more of that on the market for the ones that are sitting on the market longer. Not all of them are, but some of them are. So flip that around. If you're a seller, what does that mean? If you're a seller, you need to change your mindset a little bit. You need to be prepared that your home could be sitting a little bit longer. That if you don't price it aggressively, if you're not in a kind of an ideal location of schools or whatever it is, and you don't have a great lot and your house isn't in pristine condition, it might sit a week or 2 or 3 or 4. And if you're 2 weeks in and you're not getting the kind of activity that you were the first weekend or maybe 3 weeks in, you should probably be having your discussion with your listing agent about a price reduction. Hey, we got to get them back in. We got to get them moving. And now we're not at the place where, you just picture this, because what happens is prices usually rise slowly, but they can fall quickly. Now we're not at the point where we're like I just showed you guys, home prices are up 6%, kind of year over year right now. And you saw the median price in May is the highest it's been in 2 years. So prices are not going down. However, if they do come down, they can come down quicker, because imagine that you're a seller and prices are starting to come down, and let's say you got your home listed for 600. But in your neighbor who's got similar home, similar square footage, similar finishes, they price their home for 590 or maybe 585. And you're like, oh, shoot. We need to win the buyer because their home is really similar to mine. Let's go down to 580, right? And that's how home prices start going down quickly. If you go look in Florida right now, that's what's happening. That's happening in various markets around the country where home prices, they can drop quickly. That's not happening here, but I think if you're a seller, you need to shift from where the mindset was a year or 2 or 3 ago, where everything was selling rapidly with offers over ask price, and you need to be more realistic, I think, with where the market is, because it is churning. It's churning right now. I wouldn't say it's it's not a complete buyer's market right now, and then this chart is showing us that. If it was a buyer's market, you'd have way more inventory, right? And we're still under 2 months of inventory. We're at 1 month of inventory. So it is still a seller's market. It's shifting. Okay. So you need both buyers and sellers. You need to be aware of that. Buyers, you have a little bit more leverage. Sellers, you have a little bit less. So that's where we're at in the market. If you guys have any other questions on that, let me know. So do I need to buy a house in Florida to dodge the winter blues? I mean, I'll go in on it with you, Alex. Let's buy one together. I know I get the winter blues every January and February. So I wouldn't mind owning something. And I always love buying low, right? I love buying low and selling high. That's the game. So maybe we should talk further. You got a few extra funds. Maybe we should get a vacation rental down there. What's concerning to me and what I'm seeing in a lot of, like, I feel like the marketplaces that are becoming more buyers markets and where home prices are dropping, a lot of that I'm seeing in terms of the articles I'm reading from a national standpoint, they are more short-term rental areas, because that, there's kind of a flood of buyers who bought all these short-term rentals thinking, I'm going to make money on this, I can use it whenever. And then a lot of that demand has dried up a little bit. If you're not making money on your short-term rental, then you're going to want to sell that rental, right? And so you're seeing some of that in Florida as well, in some of those areas where you bought in thinking, man, this thing's going to be a cash flow gravy train, and now it's not. And you're like, what's my exit strategy? So, okay. What time? Where are we at here? 45 minutes. And I got to pick up my son. Trying to think if I want to get into this one article. I think I'm going to save this one actually for another time, because I think this is really interesting. But this is going to be a little tease. All right. I'm just going to tease this one out for next time. Let me stop this real quick, present this. Because I thought this idea was pretty fascinating. The idea is ETA can help Cincinnati grow, and Mayor Piraval should make it a priority. This is from Joe Brown, co-founder and CEO of SMB.co, based in Cincinnati. But ETA, I'm not going to go into all of this right now, is this idea of entrepreneurship through acquisition. You know what? Forget it. We're going to do it. We'll do it live. Okay. So we'll get into this because, this one was exciting to me. But just quickly, this idea here, in the national conversation around entrepreneurship, this is from Joe. We often fixate on the big startup success stories, Silicon Valley, venture capital, billion-dollar tech valuations. But here in Cincinnati and in cities across the country, the future of our economy might not lie in building new companies from scratch, but in buying and revitalizing the ones we already have. This model is called entrepreneurship through acquisition, or ETA. And it deserves a central place in Cincinnati's economic development strategy, especially under Mayor Piraval's administration, which has the opportunity to champion a grassroots, high-impact initiative that keeps jobs local, builds generational wealth, and sustains the backbone of our city's economy, small and mid-sized businesses. If you know anything about me, then you know that these are my buzzwords. These are the words that I love: keeping jobs local, generational wealth, and sustaining the backbone of our city's economy. No, I don't think that's what we're talking about. Let's keep going now here. But the idea here is small and mid-sized businesses. So ETA flips the traditional entrepreneurial script. Instead of starting from zero, acquisition entrepreneurs purchase existing businesses, often those with decades of history, trusted teams, loyal customers, and steady revenue. These are the family-run HVAC companies in Westwood, machine shops in Norwood, logistics firms in Springdale, businesses that support neighborhoods, pay taxes, and provide real local jobs. So I love the framing of this, and starting of like, as I was reading this article for the first time, I was like, there are a lot of those in Cincinnati. And you guys may know this too, like, as you're hiring out contractors for anything you need at your house, or you're starting to see this generation of boomers who are aging, maybe some of the older Gen Xers as well. And you're like, what's going to happen to those businesses? Right. I'll keep going here. Cause I just was like, oh, this is very interesting. So with the wave of baby boomer retirements, what many call the silver tsunami, we're at an economic crossroads. Each day, more longtime Cincinnati business owners look to retire, often without a clear succession plan. Unless new owners step in, we risk seeing these businesses disappear, with ripple effects that threaten local employment, community institutions, and neighborhood vitality. I think this is spot on. ETA offers a powerful solution. It gives aspiring entrepreneurs, including graduates of UC, Xavier, and Miami University, the chance to step into ownership roles, running legacy businesses instead of chasing a traditional startup or corporate track. It empowers local talent to become local CEOs. I'm a huge fan of this. I'm a huge fan of more and more graduates learning, and maybe, obviously, maybe there's some kind of apprentice track to get there, but becoming owners early, not necessarily just thinking startup and tech in that, but taking over these businesses that already exist, and learning how to do that. So there are two main ETA paths. Number one, search funds, where entrepreneurs raise capital from investors to acquire a business, and self-funded acquisitions, where individuals use tools like SBA loans, a federal program that can finance up to 90% of a deal. I had a friend who did this recently and purchased another one of my friend's businesses, which was one of these hands-on deals. It was like a kitchen and bath, 3-day kitchen and bath business, to buy a business with minimal capital upfront. This approach works. Data from Stanford University shows traditional search funds have generated internal, make this bigger here, have generated internal rate of returns above 35%. That's a good rate of return. But beyond financial returns, the real value is civic, keeping ownership local, preserving jobs, and strengthening community wealth. ETA is tailor-made for a city like Cincinnati. We have all the right ingredients: a rich supply of long-standing small businesses, a deep bench of skilled and ambitious people, and an urgent need to preserve our economic base. What's missing is visibility, policy support, and coordinated ecosystem. So I think this is really smart. This week's video that's coming out, I did an interview with BNKY, which is the Economic Growth Organization in Northern Kentucky. I'm looking forward to having more conversations with people like that, with Reddy and Cincinnati, to kind of think through the economy. What they're focusing on in terms of sectors are, and I did a video on this a few weeks ago, you can check that out, but logistics, advanced manufacturing, life sciences, these kinds of things. But when you talk about when they were talking about the workforce here in Cincinnati, it's kind of a high skilled workforce, hands-on workforce. And so you've got a lot of these businesses, you've got this deep bench, and then you couple that with the younger generation. I've got some friends, I've talked about here on before. I'm doing a home edition, and the builder we chose is a friend of ours. But one of the biggest reasons why we chose him is he's got a crew of young guys working for him, and he trains up and apprentices these young men to work with their hands, and then ideally they're going to go start their own businesses. I'm like, man, this is what we need. Like, we need more of this. I'm very into this. Like, both my sons have been getting experience, but they are, one of my sons loves working with his hands. He's like cutting, and he's like, this is great. I want to do this. I'm like, awesome. And then you couple that with, if you could take over, without having to start up a business from the ground, but to purchase and buy businesses that are already successful from these longtime Cincinnati business owners. I just really like this idea. But what it needs is visibility, which I'm trying to give here a little bit, policy support, and a coordinated ecosystem. That's where the mayor and his administration can lead. ETA could become a cornerstone of Cincinnati's inclusive growth strategy. Imagine a city-backed initiative that connects retiring owners with emerging entrepreneurs, or a public-private partnership, that's probably where I'd get more excited about, that expands access to capital, coaching, and acquisition education, or programs embedded in local colleges and workforce agencies that teach business ownership through acquisition, not just startup mechanics. That's I think we need to focus there as well. We're starting to see green shoots developing. Cincinnati recently held its inaugural ETA symposium at the 1819 Innovation Hub. Cincinnati doesn't have to wait on the next big tech wave or outside investment to grow. We can strengthen our economy from within by elevating ETA as a strategic response to succession challenges, job retention, and economic mobility. Of course, it's not without its challenges. First-time CEOs often face steep learning curves, for sure, but the best operators approach their work as stewards, earning the trust of their teams. I've seen this with another company. A friend of mine, he's the son who's taking over a large plumbing company in town, and he had to earn it, right? You have to earn the respect, because like you imagine a young kid coming into a business where you've got guys who've been working there 10, 15, 20 years. That's pretty steep hill to climb, right? To win them. I've got some other friends in the Keller Williams world who I like this idea where they send their children out to other organizations to get experience. In fact, Drees Homes, I've learned, has done this with they're a family business here of local builders, one of the second largest home builder here in the Cincinnati area. And from my understanding is they have their, anyone who's in the family who's working the business, you have to kind of go work in all of their departments or other businesses to get the experience and credibility to take over a new business. I think that's really smart. So the best operators, they approach as stewards, earning the trust of their teams, preserving what works, and building thoughtfully over time. That mindset, grounded in stability and long-term ownership, is exactly what our region needs. For too long, we've defined entrepreneurship as disruption, but ETA offers another path, one rooted in continuity, stewardship, and local investment. If we want to revitalize Cincinnati neighborhoods, close wealth gaps, and keep small business alive, ETA must be part of the conversation. Let's urge our civic and business leaders to recognize its potential. Let's invest in programs that support it, celebrate entrepreneurs who pursue it, and make it a pillar of Cincinnati's economic future. If Mayor Piraval wants to leave a lasting mark on the city, one that builds not just momentum, but resilience and equity, entrepreneurship through acquisition is a powerful place to start. So I'm curious what you guys think about that. I think that makes a lot of sense. I think that fits our city really well. You can see these waves of these trends happening with more and more boomers wanting to retire. Like I hear this a lot from business owners I work with. They got their knees are tired, their backs are tired. They've been working it, and they're like, they want to retire, but they don't have a good succession plan to do it. So it feels like there could be a match here, but we got to get in front of it, put more thought and effort into it. Yeah, I agree. It sounds like a good initiative. So I saw this article. I was like, that's pretty cool. I want to give that some attention here on the live. Get it out there, get more people commenting on it as well. Would be curious to hear your guys' thoughts. All right, guys, that's going to wrap it up for tonight. I hope that was helpful for you to get a feel for where the market's at. Just predicting where it's going to go in June and July. Like I said, I think it's going to be right along those lines of our normal seasonal year in Cincinnati, which means a little bit more houses on the market. This month of June that we're in, we're going to kind of see our peak prices, would be my guess. And I think you might see those again in July, but you're going to start to see, I think as we hit the tail end of June here and into July, you're going to see homes sitting a little bit longer, and you're going to see more and more price reductions. Because people, the buyer, the reason why that happens is, especially for a lot of families who are looking to move, they're wanting to be closed on their home and situated in the new home before the new school year starts. And I know we just got out of school, but that creeps up on you faster than you think, where a lot of schools are starting late July or early August, something like that. So I think we're hitting our peaks right now. And as you continue to shop the rest of the summer, you'll probably see prices kind of level off and start to go down a little bit into the summer and fall. Those are my predictions. Take them at your own risk. All right, guys, I appreciate, as always, if you wouldn't mind giving this thing a thumbs up before you head out, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, share it with a friend. I'd appreciate that. Wanted to show you guys this. So, we celebrated our Team Sztanyo event, and the one fortunate thing we had of not everyone making it is we got some merch left over. So I love this hat. This is probably my favorite of the new hats. We got the sweet rope hats, which the amazing Carrier Wine said that these are what all the cool kids are doing. So we got both in black and navy, and this is kind of like a rubber embroidered Team Sztanyo logo on here. If you don't remember, and then we got our kids hats, the black and white, which you saw the kids wearing, loving this with the hexagon logo. Our logo is find your home, which is a Roebling, and strengthen your family. So if you see here, this is a slightly modified version of the Roebling, where we put in more of a profound table was the idea here, the dining room table, because I believe the dining room table is, I don't know, is the center symbol of a family. I believe we should have more and more meals together. I believe we should break bread together. I'm not a huge fan, just going to go ahead and say it. I'm not a huge fan of these floor plans out there that are getting rid of dining rooms and just making one giant, huge island. I know people love the open floor plans and all that, but no, I'm a fan of the traditional old school dining room. Get around the table, break bread. I think that matters. So what we believe at Team Sztanyo is that all families are strong and all families are broken. There's a little bit of all that in all of our families, and but families can recover. All it takes is one generation, no matter how broken it is. But we believe that home is where families grow strong together, and strong families bless the city. So that's our logo. If you didn't know about it, now you do. It's now if you always look at, yes, it's the Roebling, but it's also find your home, strengthen your family. That's our tagline. That's our mission here. So if you guys need help, reach out. We'd love to help you with the home. All right, guys, I'm out of here for the night. Appreciate you all jumping in. Alex, man, it was so awesome meeting you. I'm sure we will meet again in the near future, and we'll see you next time, guys. See ya.